Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be doing a reaction without chat. We're going to be watching Hidden Xperia's The Downfall of Call of Duty Zombies. I think I just wanted to do this one off stream, get an unbiased approach to this. So without further ado, let's get right into this. This is going to be awesome. I'm very excited. My man Hidden Xperia makes some great videos. That was hella loud. Shout out to my man.
The greatest strength of video games as a medium is how much faith they're able to put in the player to experience their world.
I agree.
Unlike movies, TV shows, and
immersiveness
books,
is
the player
everything.
in a video game has tangible control over where they go in a world.
Yeah.
What they see.
And bad immersion is what makes people laugh. That's my job, to expose
Some
that.
games don't lean much into this unique level of freedom and instead choose to deliver the world to the player in a very curated
love
manner,
Halo, man.
Whereas others choose to
Dude,
embrace it,
way OG.
use it to immerse the player in their world. In
I
a way
hate
that only video games
Intel, though, to be honest. I hate
These
reading
games are
in a
often the
game.
most
It
rewarding.
breaks
I value the
so much of
information,
the
story,
gameplay.
and the mechanics more because I actually have to put in the effort to find them myself, as opposed to having the developer serve me them on a silver platter.
That's also very
Now, there are
true.
many
But
great
there's good and
examples of
bad
games
ways to
that
do it.
trust the player to experience all they have to offer on their own volition.
Absolutely.
But few made it the very
Like
core
COD Zombies,
of
of
their
course.
experience, like Call of Duty Zombies did.
Yes, I fully agree. The way zombies used to do it as well back in World at War was actually so
Mood
immersive.
that I hold extremely dear, and once upon a time used to love almost as much as
Shout out
my
to Mob of
main
the
bread
Dead,
and
bro.
butter, Halo.
Bring me back, bro.
This mode used to be one of the most unique experiences in the entire gaming industry.
I agree. There's nothing
both
like
in the way
this.
it delivered its narrative and world building, and also in the way that it played. However,
A lot
as
of
you can
games
probably
just don't
tell by
compete, I
both
feel like,
my
now.
use of the past tense and also the title of this video, that's no longer the case.
I agree.
Today, I want to talk about
In terms of just like what's recently been developed for COD Zombies, I have to agree.
Put on display the strengths of the medium, lost its identity, and in doing so, lost me as a fan.
Dang. And I mean,
This is the downfall
it's true.
of Call of Duty
A lot of zombies recently has been really just like, what is even going on here? So, I mean, it's great. I'm awesome. Okay, he's saying that he's focusing on Ether, not Chaos. I mean, Chaos is whatever, dude. That's totally fine. Ain't nobody worried about
One of the
that.
things about Zombies is the franchise that it's attached to. Given how unique and
So
innovative
true.
approach to gameplay
So
and
true.
narrative
It doesn't even
the
feel like Call of
freedom
Duty.
and control given to the player is,
I've always
the
agreed with
fact
this.
that it's tied to Call of Duty of
The
all
most, like,
franchises, one of the least
stale,
innovative and
yes,
cookie-cutter video
yes,
games on the market
yes.
is rather interesting.
I
And
know,
in fact,
right?
I think the contrast between Zombies and the game that it's attached to is part of what makes the mode stand out so well. The way Zombies intertwines
True.
its satisfying, highly replayable gameplay, a genuine atmosphere.
There's just nothing like it, man. I literally just played a custom map that makes you feel like you're playing IRL life. Like, this game is kind of like Minecraft in a way, where like I feel like COD Zombies could have gone into that Minecraft route where it literally you like go into the ground, you explore, you know? Like this game also reminds me of The Forest. And again, I think people that think that Zombies is popular because of the zombies is also just wrong. That's just not what it's popular about. Like, it could be any enemy. This is why Custom Zombies has a bunch of different models and stuff. It could be any enemy. So that is so important.
It's only discovered through a player's willingness to scavenge.
Exactly. Yeah, like,
Is
look at
nothing
that.
short of genius.
Yeah.
For me personally, what made Zombies so special can be diluted down into three core pillars. Addictive, accessible gameplay.
Yeah, I
an
agree.
atmosphere of horror, desperation,
Yeah.
and intrigue. And a subtle
It just sucks
conspiracy
because, like, I think that the problem is with a lot of zombies recently is that they've been trying to recreate this magic, but it's like they can't do it in the same way. Again, you have to do it in a different way. But nobody has yet to do it well. Chaos has failed. IW Zombies has failed for the majority, for the greater audience. Nothing has ever grabbed or gripped people like the initial Call of Duty Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 2. I wouldn't even include Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3, I guess, but from Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 3, I guess Black Ops 3, it is just so phenomenal to see it. But yeah, nothing has really compared since then.
These are the three main things that I want to focus on in this video, because over the years, all three of these core pillars have failed to retain what made them so unique in the first place.
Absolutely.
So let's go in reverse order and begin
lack
with
of
the latter,
addictive,
because I think
a lack of
over time,
replayability really
the
is what it
story
boils
of Call
down
of
to.
Duty Zombies arguably became its most standout and unique
Yes,
feature.
yes,
One
exactly.
of the cleverest things about the way that Zombies used to deliver its narrative was that it was only ever as big as the player wanted it to be. Because of how implicit it was,
That's true.
it was never forced on the player.
Yeah, it
distracting
wasn't,
them
no
while
timelines or
trying to
anything like
survive.
that, which is why I don't
During
like
World at
including
War,
BO3
Black
for
Ops
this.
1 and to a degree as well, Black Ops 2,
Yeah.
a player could very easily play almost every map without any idea there was any story there.
Exactly,
whatsoever.
which was literally
That was
me
an end.
for
And
100%
loved
of the
every
time.
second of it.
Yeah.
But then, on the flip side, the shards of narrative that were hidden within the map required searching
Made
and
it
hunting
really
on
cool.
behalf of
Shout out to
them.
Greg,
Only
let's
further
go,
served
man.
to immerse them in this terrifying, addictive
Yeah.
universe.
Doesn't
and
feel
do
like
so
this anymore.
far more effectively
The thing is,
than
though,
any other
is
style.
that I think mystery is kind of not really a good genre anymore after the inclusion of the internet, because everything is not mysterious when you can just look it up. You know, that is something that I think is something that can never really be captured or recreated, because I think the problem now with COD Zombies is when a new map comes out, everybody's speedrunning it, everybody's looking for the Easter egg. It's nothing ever mysterious and new, which is why I'm thankful that developers have a straight direct-to-consumer strategy in terms of talking to the community. But it also just sucks that, like, what made it so popular now has just sort of been eroded with how people have just been more mainstream on the internet and all that. So that's a very important note to bring up in the early days of COD Zombies for sure.
Of storytelling ever could. Sure, having information and plot delivered to you in a pre-rendered cutscene is cool and all, but
Yeah.
that self-imposed feeling of discovery when you find a note, a radio, a picture, or a cipher that was naturally embedded
True.
in the environment that you were trying to
Ciphers,
sustain
not so
is
much.
absolutely unparalleled.
But
It
pictures
made
and
you feel
images,
like
yes.
you were the one
And radios,
personally
not so much
discovering
either.
this creepy narrative that's been
You see,
sitting
like,
on your nose this
I'm saying not so much just because I'm realizing, like, it is something that has been overplayed and overdone so many times that there just needs to be a new way. Which is why I think there still is a way to be mysterious with the internet, but it's a lot harder than it was, obviously, back in 2008.
entire time whilst you were just casually enjoying these maps. The context they added to the locations of these maps often made you look at them in an entirely new light as well. No longer were they just glorified mazes you were locked in and
Exactly,
forced to survive
yeah.
in.
Because that's really
Now,
what Zombies
they
felt
had
like.
greater meaning,
It felt like a
greater
world.
purpose.
Yeah.
They gave you the sense that there was so much going on behind the scenes in the universe that
Very
you
much so.
weren't privy to.
And that
which
is just
in turn
gone
helped
now.
to create that fear of the unknown. In its presentation, Zombies always felt rather small. You
Yeah.
were boxed into enclosed and often
I mean, dude, you're playing
claustrophobic
Nuketown and
environments.
Baroque. What can you expect?
Besides just surviving. But the elements of the narrative you could find throughout
Shout
the
out to
map, you
NGT,
realize
dude. This
how
is
much bigger this
archaic
thing
footage.
is than
Holy.
just a few maps set in different countries. This style of implicit storytelling really reminds me of two games. FromSoft's Souls and kind of...
I mean, that's why I clicked with Elden
Also,
Ring so much
Bungie
recently, I
Marathon.
think.
It's a style of
Interesting, I've never
storytelling
heard of this
that
one.
Really isn't used as
Oh,
much
this
as it
old
should be
game, I see.
nowadays, which I think is a real shame, honestly, because it gets me so much more invested in your story and your world than just a typical linear.
I think
hyper-curated
game
map.
devs are scared to do
Now,
it, though.
I think where modern
Because
zombies
a lot
began
of
to
players,
falter
like,
was
I think in open worlds, you should never do this because there's too much. There's too much space for somebody to be invested in. Like, Elden Ring, I think, is the one exception, but most of Elden Ring's story, you sort of, like, it gets fed to you, but you have to find it. It's like a mixture of both, which is why I think it works so well.
when it became too reliant on its own lore. The genesis of the story was always deeply rooted in real-world conspiracies. And
Yeah, and I think that also helped
surrounded
it
them,
a
both
lot.
in the real world
Yeah.
and also in terms of their importance in the zombie storyline.
Yep.
It also served to add a degree of context to the maps as well. Verrückt was a Nazi asylum, home to many...
Yeah, they all
rebels,
seem like it could be
twisted
something
experiments.
real, at least the
Shimonuma
older
was a
versions of the
Group
maps.
125
Yeah.
research facility, home to the infamous Tunguska meteorite. that
But
crashed
games
landed
just
in
don't feel
Siberia
this
in
immersive anymore, at
1908.
least for me,
Many
man.
of the Black Ops 1 maps had a number of references to the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Transit was home to a secret HARP research facility, which explains the...
I mean, it just doesn't feel like Call of Duty as he's describing it, you know? Call of Duty's just too cookie cutter for this.
From other works of fiction in their maps.
Yeah. Like Lost. Yeah. I mean, JC loves this. He cannot stop raving about this. It's such an iconic Easter egg as well. This is a real Easter egg as well. Like, not just a map's quest, because that's a map's quest if you want to get super literary about it.
Go ahead, do your thing.
I gotta say, as a huge lifelong Lost fan, this Verrückt Easter egg
Shout out JC on the bottom right.
subtle inclusion of these references to real-world conspiracies added fantastic context to the maps, and
I agree.
led to real organic discussion and exploration of elements of the story within the community.
Yeah.
So much of Zombies' atmosphere stemmed from the ambiguity of it all. Because of the genesis of many of the mode's plot points and the questions they posed, just like the real-world conspiracies, rarely, if ever, did they get a resolute answer or conclusion.
I mean, yeah, that's what COD Zombies is. It just furthers the questions.
Plot point, and
that's all it's ever been, unfortunately. Like, I feel like when they finally decided to answer things with Black Ops 4, it was incredibly unsatisfying. And that is why, like, I think most of the times with stories, it's usually incredibly unsatisfying to get answers, other than very few, like One Piece, which I'm so excited for. But either way,
the internet and
it do be like
YouTube
that.
were still in their infancy stages at the time. Finding someone else's theories or any answers was often hard, so you kind of had to make your own.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And answers weren't as accessible nor prevalent back then as they are now.
Yeah,
Easter eggs
and that's what I'm saying. It's the whole
in-depth
internet
write-up
accessibility.
within hours of maps releasing.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
Were no explainer videos.
Exactly.
Everything just had this incredible air of mystery about it.
It's so true.
The narrative really did feel like one big conspiracy theory, both in how its community tried to uncover the truth by joining the...
I just wish that Treyarch furthered it, because it's just been the same thing, you know, map drops, Easter egg releases, and that's that. Like, before, that used to be a huge deal because it was just not like that. But now it's like, take that to the next step. Take it like Destiny 2 does with raids and all that. Just make it more and more and more, you know? But it's just like, we haven't really gotten that, even in the last, like, 5-10 years.
Together, and also in how those dots were implicitly integrated into the maps themselves. And the characters that you played as only facilitated this further. They were either silent or dumb protagonists that existed to act as your vessel for exploring the world.
Exactly.
They had enough character to make them stand out and provide funny...
I also still feel, though, that COD zombie characters and operators and whatnot have truly not really given enough character depth. Like, in a lot of other games, I play a character, even in first person, I feel that character's depth more so than I do than all of COD Zombies, I find. I don't know if that's because COD Zombies is just strictly first person, but I definitely think that there's definitely a lot of room for story improvement in terms of how well connected you feel with characters. That is something that COD Zombies has really not done well enough, in my opinion.
Besides Richtofen, who had his grand plan for world domination in Black Ops 1, a plan that he kept very close to his chest, mind you, it never felt like these characters knew more or less about what was going on than you did.
Yep.
But then along came Primus, a cast of characters...
See, that's when in Black Ops 2 it basically finished, right? Because Origins changed it all. Origins changed it all with BL3. So you can make that argument, man. That's totally fair.
Going in the multiverse direction. And this is where I start to feel conflicted with my thoughts on
I mean, and it starts getting confusing as well.
I really like Primus and how they were characterized, particularly in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, I feel disconnected from them. Because unlike Ultimus, our previous 4 characters...
They just seem like they're there for a mission.
Far more information than I was.
Yes,
no longer
exactly.
was the player character a caricatured vessel for the player to experience the universe.
You're now just somebody that you're playing that you have... They have more knowledge than you do.
Backstories, motivations, and dynamics. And this is where the Zombies narrative really started to depart from what once made it so special to me.
I
move
agree.
away from a more grounded, conspiracy-rooted narrative with ambiguity and mystery at its very core to a more fantastical, curated multiverse narrative broke that connection that I had with the universe. because of how curated and set in stone it was, it felt like the player had far less
The
agency
Mr.
in
Waffle
exploring
Waffles
the
emblem on the
narrative,
bottom
and
left.
instead
That's so
was
funny.
just being served the lore and the plot points Treyarch's narrative team wanted them to be served.
Yeah,
As a
that's
byproduct
such a
of this
true
approach,
statement.
Many of the grounded conspiracy theories that formed the basis of the story ended up being...
I always say COD Zombies to me has always been an adventure mode. Always. It has been an adventure mode from day in and day out. And for people that think it's only about zombies, I don't understand why you play zombies, to be quite honest. This mode is an adventure mode, period.
By something that was written in later to basically invalidate them, and the real-world conspiracy genesis of the narrative that gave it that gritty and grounded feeling was replaced with entirely unrealistic fantastical elements.
Yeah.
Losing that semi-realistic aspect of the story that ensured, as crazy as some of the plot points did get, they could always be linked back to something tangible in the real world, made it so much harder to associate with the story.
I agree.
That bridge of connectivity that was formed by core foundational elements of the world being real conspiracies that exist in the real world.
It's just, are there even really conspiracies in 2022 like that have been recent? Like, yes and no, I feel like.
You're saying, well, what about the Vrilya? So, for those who don't know, the Vrilya were an ancient race.
Yeah, the Vrilya was the OG Apothicons.
Indirectly referred to.
Yeah.
We know about them because the Golden Rod, which was used in Call of the Dead and Moon's Easter eggs, was a Vrilya artifact.
Yeah.
Now, it's been heavily theorized in recent years that the Keepers, introduced in the multiverse storyline of Black Ops 3, are actually the Vrilya, and thus were technically present as...
But also, Jason Modell did write that in after Jimmy Zielinski, so we'll see, you know.
They were present, but rather how they were present.
Exactly.
The way the Vrilya were
they were just watching over you. I agree. This is such a great point. Such a great point.
Really reminds me of how Bungie treated the Foreigners in Halo compared to how
they were there, but they weren't.
Besides Guilty
it's that
Spark,
mysterious
the
aspect.
were
I
never
agree.
directly present in any of Bungie's games.
Yeah.
They instead chose to have the artifacts that they left behind influence the narrative to ensure that shroud of mystery remained firmly.
Exactly.
Then 343 came along and started having the Foreigners be present in a far more direct and overt way, lifting the shroud of mystery for the sake of expanding the canon. And this is almost
I think it's just
what
something that has to happen though with the storyline though. You know, they have to reveal it eventually, right?
Are indeed the Keepers, but you know, even if
I wonder how you can fix this. That's the thing.
And the Apothicons was much more in line with how 343 treats the Foreigners, as opposed to how Bungie did. And considering mystery is one of the core tenets of zombies, I don't think that was the right move. As much as I genuinely love the
like I said, it's gotten outdated. I just wish they could have found a way to upgrade it within our timeline, you know?
Another consequence of the zombies narrative, moving away from clues that hinted at greater cogs turning behind the scenes to a more fleshed out, curated universe, was the almost elite status that came from knowing the zombies storyline.
Oh, the elitism in COD Zombies.
Only ever really got during World at War.
Yeah.
Maybe the first half.
Definitely old OG stuff back in Black Ops 1. Definitely not a thing nowadays. It is very unique.
That personally I feel benefited the story greatly. Because of how subtle and secretive the narrative was, thanks to it being handled as if it were a literal conspiracy theory, you felt like you were part of some elite club for knowing it. You'd play Ascension with your friends.
That elitism is a very good thing, but also a very, very, very bad thing for a lot of people.
About the Casimir mechanism.
Because a lot of people let that go to their heads.
Abandoned cosmonaut facility.
So, I mean, agree.
Like a simple, fun zombie survival mode on the surface, but buried beneath that surface was an iceberg of conspiracies, experiments, and
that's how the Easter eggs used to have their name, Easter eggs, because it was literally something that wasn't intended, right?
Was going on outside those
now it's just a map quest.
Because the story itself was so intriguing yet so secretive, very rarely would anyone just dabble in the story.
That's very true.
As soon as you got a taste of it, you were hooked. This
Yep.
super secret and inaccessible vibe the zombie story used to have only made me more interested. It's like with real-world conspiracy theories. The more
It's
you
borderline
try to find
unreal.
something,
That's what
the more
makes it so
curious
great.
people are
Yeah,
bound to
exactly,
get. And
exactly. Great
ironically,
example.
at least for me, the more accessible and presented, if that's even the right term, the zombie story became, the less interested I became in it.
I agree. Same.
Bringing the
Same.
zombie story into
Same.
the limelight and
Because it was taken away from the original narrative that it was supposed to be.
Misunderstanding in
Yes.
what originally made it so great.
Yes, I
Its
agree.
inclusion
Fully
was
agree.
very in keeping with its themes.
Yep.
It was secretive. It was
Yep.
hidden in the
You can
shadows.
obviously tell
Only existed
somebody
for those
took
who
over
were
the
willing to
project.
dive beneath the surface. The mystery and ambiguity were its defining features.
Yeah.
They created a fantastic fear of, but also simultaneously intrigue in the unknown.
Yeah.
The removal
I
of
fully
this
agree.
mystery, however, was akin to opening Pandora's
And
box.
they did the
Once player
timeline
became
because they
privy
wanted to
too
kill
much
off Primus.
information
We all
or
know that, though.
the mystery of
They
the
wanted to
universe
do
was
different things.
enshrouded. The fear and intrigue
And chaos
in the
just
unknown
wasn't it.
was no more because the player just simply knew too much, and the identity that Zombies had crafted for itself with that creepy, secret, and conspiracy-rooted narrative was over.
Yeah. It's really sad to say, but like it's the truth.
Now, I do just want to add a brief.
The
addendum
storyline
to the
definitely
narrative
changed
section
a lot of
this video,
stuff.
and also as kind of precursor to the rest of this video, that even my favorite zombies modes often lent into some of the elements of zombies that I wasn't.
I
the
agree.
biggest fan of.
I agree.
World
I
at
agree.
War had like things like teleportation, very ungrounded. Black
Yeah.
Ops 1 had zombies on the moon.
Yeah.
And Black Ops 2 had the Avogadro, right?
Yeah.
And conversely,
I
the kind
mean,
of
they're
era
just
that
very different things.
began
Yeah.
the downfall of the mode, broadly speaking, was also full of elements of the mode that I loved as well.
It's
Black
the
Ops 3 was
fantasy
packed
mode.
full of
Yeah, the
secret hidden
the fantasy.
ciphers.
But I
Black Ops
think
4
it deserved to
had
go
Easter
this
eggs,
way.
yes,
It's just
however,
it wasn't
where they
done
hid
in an
them was
amazing
in a very
aspect like
cryptic
Elden Ring
and
or anything
very
like that.
zombie
So I do
fashion.
agree with
There's
that.
no singular map or game that I can really point to as the definitive beginning of the downfall of zombies. It
Yeah.
was just a case of the story shifting its focus and its implementation
Yeah.
style over time, eventually just becoming so far detached from what first hooked me on the mode in World at War.
Exactly.
that I just lost interest in it.
Yeah,
This
it's just
fact
it's
applies to
went
all
from
three sections,
realism to
so
fantasy,
just
quite
keep that in
literally.
mind.
So I mean,
This narrative
he's
opening
totally
of
right.
Pandora's box had a knock-on effect on elements of the gameplay as well. In particular, Easter egg design, which I see as the bridge between the gameplay and the narrative.
Yeah,
If you
I
ask
agree.
me, the term Easter egg got its modern popularity thanks to Call of Duty Zombies.
This man's spitting.
The mode stuck
This man's
as close to
spitting.
the meaning
Yes.
of the word as possible when laying the seeds for its players to discover pieces of the story.
Yeah.
However, over time, I feel like it deviated away from that. As if I've not already made it
Deviation
abundantly clear,
games?
Zombies choosing to tell its story via hidden interactable elements that blended perfectly in with the environment of the map.
Yeah,
to the point
it
of
it was
being
like
hidden
this
in
more in
plain
World at
sight
War and
is
BO1 for sure.
absolutely genius.
Yeah.
But as the story became more overt and kind of in your face, so did the Easter eggs that delivered it. It eventually got to the point,
Yeah, where it's literally being
Cold War
fed
and
through the
Vanguard, where
gameplay.
the Easter
Yeah,
eggs feel
that's
less like
so
secrets
true.
and more like optional quests. And this is something
Very
that
much
Treyarch
so,
even
yeah.
kind of started to acknowledge post Black Ops 4.
Yep.
With them no
Yep.
longer referring to them as Easter egg quests.
That is true.
Now referring to them
A
as
story quest. Yeah.
One of the most alluring aspects
Very
of the zombie
strange.
story was that it was so hidden. Finding fragments of it, whether they were Easter egg steps, radios, ciphers, or general clues as to what was going on, always made you feel like you were discovering something you were never intended to find.
Exactly,
And this fit
yeah.
perfectly with the conspiracy theming of the mode. You felt like a post-apocalyptic detective trying to uncover the truth of all of these secret organizations, experiments, characters, and, of course, the zombies themselves. Although Easter eggs and quest steps were
That's what made it
ironically
so
always the most
unique,
curated
honestly. I
element
just
of
love the
zombies,
mystery
how
aspect.
subtly they
You're put
conveyed
into an
information
environment you had
about themselves
nothing,
to the
you know
player,
nothing
still
about.
allowed them to retain that
You know,
secret
that
and
was the greatest part.
conspiracy-esque vibe that was at the core of the narrative that they were
It makes you
conveying.
wonder if COD Zombies
Over
can ever
time,
even
as
be
the Easter eggs
fixed, you know?
transitioned into glorified side quests with HUD indicators, glowing outlines, and tooltips,
Yeah, the glowing
it started
outlines
to
are
feel
not that
more
great.
Like I was following a set of instructions.
True. Because that's just the way it is now. That's just the way it is. That's so true.
As the fly trap in Doris, That's precisely what we were doing.
Yeah.
But the game was great at hiding it thanks to how naturally the Easter eggs...
It just shows that, like, is
the
mystery
environment.
even
When
possible with
Easter
the
eggs were
internet, you know?
truly hidden. Discovering
Yeah.
them felt more like you were discovering something secret as opposed to just seeing a glowing item on the
Exactly,
floor and the game
yeah.
telling you to hold E to pick it up.
Exactly.
With these
yeah.
changes, I no longer feel immersed when doing an Easter egg in the story nor the world.
I
And
agree.
in turn,
I agree.
These alterations to the
Because it makes it just feel like something you
Easter
need to
eggs
do rather
had a
than
knock-on
you want
effect
to do.
on the atmosphere of the mode as well.
Yeah.
Now that the narrative was no longer obscured and buried within the environment of the maps, much of that
Buried
fear
too?
of the unknown that was so rife in the early years was lost.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of subtlety with the Easter eggs, the quests, and how
Yeah,
the
it's so
components were telegraphed
just
to the player,
spam square. Hopefully you get everything you need.
least
Like literally,
in
what a
the true
great
sense of
gameplay
words.
segment from
They
Mauer
were
to show that.
hidden, but with the intention of being found.
Yeah.
Classic Easter eggs never felt like they were intended to be found. They were embedded so naturally.
Origins,
into the
that's
environments
another
and
reason why
scenery of the
Origins
maps. It was
and
almost
Shadows are
as if
just
they were
so
placed
good.
With the conscious intention of no player ever finding them.
Yeah.
But narrative and Easter eggs only half contributed to Zombies' atmosphere. The other half was built by the very core foundation of the mode.
By the community.
Gameplay.
And the
main
gameplay.
bulk of
Yeah.
Zombies' atmosphere came from the weakness and the inferiority.
It's so interesting to see how so many
From the
pillars
get-go,
have
you were
made
overwhelmed,
Zombies what it is.
underpowered, and on
Community,
the back foot,
real
which
world,
is what I encourage you
gameplay.
to explore
There's
and
really nothing
scavenge
like
throughout
it.
the map with the ultimate goal of trying to outpace the growth of the Horde.
That's
Zombies
true.
was ultimately a power fantasy, but its greatest...
That's what I'm saying. Why nerf stuff in Zombies, man? I'll never understand. I'll never understand.
Fantastic in-game progression.
Yes.
But it was only ever temporary.
Yeah.
Eventually, regardless of how powerful
The zombies
you
would
got,
still
the
be
zombies would
OP.
catch up to you and they would overpower you.
Yeah.
Defeat was inevitable. It was a
Yeah.
when, not if kind of situation. But it was
That's
that
very
zero
true.
to hero journey that occurred on a game-by-game basis based entirely on how you use the tools and mechanics at your disposal within the map that made the gameplay so addictive.
Exactly. That is
Nowadays,
such a
the
great way of
approach to
putting
this
it.
Power fantasy is treated very differently.
Yeah.
The introduction of gobblegums, elixirs, weapon
Listen,
kits,
like,
specialist weapons,
I
and
love
custom loadouts.
gobblegums and weapon kits. I do agree, though, that when it gets BO4 level or even Cold War level where it's like create a class, it's like... It just brings in those like cookie cutter elements from multiplayer, which I don't like in Zombies. Because I agree. I think you should start every game in Zombies with a pistol. I think that makes sense. And then you progress. I think that is fair. Because that adds to the mystery aspect. That adds to the progressional aspect as well. So it's such a great point.
Many of the components that created that power fantasy required no scavenging. Many
Yeah,
were
or it's
simply
all
accessible
in-game
from round
menu
one, or hell, in
progression.
some cases, many were accessible before the
game even
started.
starts in
Some
BO4,
were
man.
monetized.
I know,
The existence of
dude.
features that erode that natural
Yeah, I
in-game
agree.
progression
I fully agree,
demonstrates a
man.
fundamental misunderstanding in what made zombies so
Correct,
special in the first
correct.
place.
I
To help
fully
create
agree.
Tension, addictive gameplay, and to feed into the atmosphere crafted by the maps, Zombies was a mode where being on the back foot was core to the experience.
Always.
Zombies
Because that's how it
speed
feels in the
and
old games.
number
You
were
always
things
feel
that you were
underpowered
always
until
playing
you're
catch-up
overpowered.
with, like I said, via
Yeah.
the various components of the mode's in-game progression.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about XP or levels. I'm talking about the economy and how it integrated with the map.
Of course.
Flying doors,
Yeah.
wall weapons.
Yeah, economy is
sneaking
everything in
bots,
Zombies as
perks,
well.
Activating traps, packer punching, etc.
It's wild how
The
many
scarcity
real
created
world
by having a
areas
points
Zombies
economy
covers,
made
you know?
every
I always
purchase
think it's
matter,
so
and it made
like
things
satisfying
having
and
all four
fascinating to
perks or
watch.
having 2 packer punch weapons mean something. Not
Yep.
just because of how powerful these gameplay milestones made you, but also because of the journey that you underwent to achieve them. Not to go off on a complete random tangent or anything, but how well Zombies' point system and economy plays off of a traditional
I know,
survival
right?
mode experience.
It's
is
so
like
wild.
No other horde mode, even Halo's own Firefight,
Yeah,
has
true.
ever managed to grab me.
It's
like
just
Zombies
never
has.
been the same.
It
Yeah.
creates a truly unique experience that's as dynamic as it is replayable.
Yep,
The
I
gameplay
agree.
journeys and stories that it creates are fantastic, and anything that looks to undermine this system or create shortcuts in it is, to me, an
Black
enemy of
Ops
the
4.
formula.
I agree.
Ultimately,
Black Ops 4,
Zombies
enemy of the
were so
formula. That's the real name for it, the motto of Black Ops 4.
Encourage scavenging.
That's literally what it was. Like,
driven by the desperation
it's like you don't know anything or whatever. I forgot what the motto was.
When you spawn into a map, a weakling with a basic standard issue pistol, you know that you've got a mountain to climb.
Exactly. This is what I was saying before.
Risk the horde overrunning you. And it was this mountain climb that made it.
It makes you feel like you're really there as well.
When you finally completed that super difficult Easter egg. Shangri-La, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
That natural progression
Shout
from
out to
being
Shang.
a weak survivor trapped in a glorified maze with zombies tearing down the barriers to breach your safe haven to a geared to the teeth.
I mean, the barriers and the barricades, it's an old thing. I don't think people will ever need to really focus on that. But it's interesting because I just played the Backrooms map today, and that map was actually very scary just because it was all laid out like that. Like, the layout in everything is so important, especially to zombies, man. So it's interesting to see how things have basically deviated towards the worse in these recent years.
The weapons, before inevitably being overrun, was the mode's gameplay loop. But unlike other games like Halo, for example, where the gameplay loop was one 30-second highly refined loop that was repeated over and over and over again, the loop in Zombies...
It can get a little bit boring. The Zombies loop is way longer. Yeah.
Zombies always felt so replayable.
Yeah.
You wanted to experience that come up again from
exactly.
weakling to badass.
Exactly.
The journey that you undertook in which you were solely reliant on your own interactions with the sandbox to deliver you to the power fantasy was the mode's hook.
It was the best. It was the best. Yeah, it was the best
now,
aspect of
a
lot of games that I've played. It's such a satisfying feeling.
And maintain scavenging and the progression journey, as I'm going to call it. However, it was with Black Ops 3 where these core pillars of
that's what I'm saying. Black Ops 3 definitely took it away because this is where Blundell came through. Yeah, microtransactions. Shout out to Gobblegums.
Extremely powerful boosts in game.
Yeah.
From being able to spawn any power up at the snap of a finger and raising the perk limit above 4 to immediately pack-a-punching any wall buy or box.
Which is why I do like the way that Cold War did it. I think Cold War did it the best, where they just raised the perk limit to 10. You don't need a Gobblegum, man. You don't need Elixir. You don't need any of that.
Gobblegums were purposely.
But I do miss Gobblegums, man. They were a lot of fun.
Basically a pay-to-skip option.
Yeah.
Eroded that progress journey from zero to hero that Zombies was so.
But I agree. Yeah, the pay to skip is definitely a very big problem.
Quenchable and perkaholic also serve to detract from the Easter egg reward.
But then it's also like a lot of players, especially new players, could not get into these old games because they're so difficult. And it's like, do you just make them go through the game like we did, or do you give them an experience that is easier? Who knows? On the map, who knows? What is the right way?
Sometimes perma-perks as well that you wouldn't lose when you go down for finishing an Easter egg. It was a very gratifying.
I mean, yeah, that was the best reward for Easter eggs. But that also goes to show that like they expected us to do Easter eggs like very quickly because they were not long drawn out things like in BO3 or anything like that. And I also agree, Easter egg reward quests have never been good in Zombies. They need to be way better. There needs to be something that really incentivizes the player to go back and do Easter eggs.
Case. Instead, these rewards were monetized. Now, I don't think I really need to go into much detail about Gobblegums because, to be honest, I think how powerful they were, combined with how egregiously they were monetized, kind of speaks volumes about the feature in and of itself. And
I
then
agree.
There was the weapon kits. Now, at face value,
I do like the weapon kits, though.
Weapon kits were
they were really fun.
I mean, if anything,
they added some definitely OP attachments, though, right?
On the map isn't a bad thing. How could it be? Well, I disagree. When you're
I'm curious to hear
so
what he
over the
says.
efficiency of your weapons, you risk making the player too powerful too early, which I felt was absolutely the case.
I never felt that with weapon kits, to be honest. I just liked knowing that like your speed cola could be upgraded, which is a problem that I felt like Cold War had. Cold War Zombies speed cola was so garbage compared to what you had in BL3. It was such a bad contrast. So, I mean, I don't know if I agree with this.
And this is only exacerbated when it's done in the lobby entirely outside
but yeah, lobby progression is not fun. In game.
In a match,
I agree. That is way better. I do agree.
All done outside
I
of the
do
experience. is no bueno.
That
Part
is,
of the
I
way
agree
the
with that
game
point.
stripped power from the player was by giving them stock.
But I never thought they were
weapons.
too OP though.
They were weapons the player probably wasn't used to from multiplayer, so it immediately took them out of their comfort zone and made them fight with something that was much weaker than what they typically use. But
Yeah.
then perks were added post-Verrucht to kind of supplement that and make them feel powerful again. But with weapon kits, you can just straight out of the gate give your weapons rapid.
The thing is, though, weapon kits were never as good as perks, which is why they just sort of felt like a mini upgrade, which I loved.
Fire,
So
aka
I don't think it made it
mags,
like free
aka
double
free
tap.
speed cola,
Nah,
and
I don't
various
think it
other
was that
attachments
good.
That in previous games were Pack-a-Punch exclusive. For free,
They definitely helped, but dude, like
Nope.
on Black Ops 3, there's way worse stuff than the weapon kits to make you overpowered. I've never heard anyone complain about
Not
that.
only did this remove some of the uniqueness to Pack-a-Punch weapons, but it was one of the many.
Thing is, though, is Pack-Punch weapons needed to upgrade somehow, and I think that they've never truly done a great Pack-Punch system. Like, the greatest thing about Pack-Punch is putting a weapon in and not knowing what you're going to get out. And I feel like there's never really been anything like that where you could, like, build certain aspects of your gun in the Pack-Punch and it comes out. Like, I don't know, man.
Just serve
They
to
just-
erode that progression.
they just don't
journey,
get it.
Giving you too much too soon. Now, granted, I don't think weapon kits were anywhere near as detrimental to the zombies' experience as gobblegums were, for
Of
example.
course,
But
of course.
it's just a small gripe that I've had with the mode since BO3, and honestly, I put it in this video more so to see if anybody else agreed with me. I think ultimately,
I mean,
Black Ops
to be
3
honest,
was
I
a
don't,
blessing and a curse to
but I
zombies
think, honestly, weapon kits is better than all the other systems we've had after it, which is BO4, and Cold War. Cold War is fun, but it's like, it's just, I think the thing is just like, it's kind of, it just loses that mystery. Also, it just becomes a meta, which was fun for one game to do, like, oh, what's the meta gun? But, like, now, is it, like, going to be every single game after it? I don't know. I think there's a better system, though, like he's saying. Something in-game.
Brawl, and in that sense, it really reminds me of Resident Evil 4. Both Black Ops 3 and Resident Evil 4 are beloved by the fans and are
True.
heralded as the greatest their respective franchises have to offer. But simultaneously, both introduced many of the issues that led to the erosion of what made their franchises
I mean, very
special
true as
and
well.
what many
Yeah.
grew to dislike in
Yeah.
subsequent titles, myself in particular. We then get to Black Ops 4, where that progression journey was simply eroded even further, with things like elixirs replacing gobblegums that, although granted they weren't as bad, they still impacted gameplay. The expansion
Elixirs
of
just
weapon
felt
kits,
lifeless, though.
perk loadout, so you
I
could
like the
only have
BO4
four
weapon kits,
predetermined
though.
perks
I
at
think
a
nobody
moment in
really
time,
talks about that, but BO4
worse
weapon
than
kits
all
are
that,
great.
introduced
Specialists, no.
Remember how earlier
Yeah,
I talked about
BO4
how
weapon
zombies
kits, though,
had
with
you
just
chasing the
attachments?
power fantasy
Yes.
via exploration of the map and also via interaction with various sandbox elements? Well, specialist weapons were the total antithesis of that. Being able to spawn with an ability that, upon activation, instantly
Yeah,
knocks away
specialist
all
weapons
zombies, fills
were
your
easily
armor.
one of the worst additions in zombies. Like, spawning in with them. Nobody wanted this as well. And this is something I always have to say. Nobody wanted this in these games. And they did this. And it's, to me, to this day, like, such a just spit in the face to what your player audience actually loved. That's why I'll never understand a lot of the stuff on BO4. You know, I'll
But to
never
full
get it.
And gives you a weapon that literally does infinite damage on round one is so counter to the core zombies game.
Exactly.
There's no tension anymore because of how powerful the player is. If you
Yep.
happen to get stuck in a corner, well, no issue, don't worry. Pull out your pocket wonder weapon that you did absolutely nothing to earn, and you're A-okay.
Exactly.
And then along
Exactly.
came Cold War, which is a rather interesting one because in some areas it's very clear that Treyarch tried to scale back a lot of the BS that was introduced in BO3 and BO4, and it's very clear as well that there was a conscious effort made to return to a more.
I also
classic
just
game
dislike how,
experience. But
like,
simultaneously,
I don't think the answer is upgrading your gun multiple times. Like, I like Cold War's gun upgrade, but the problem is that it makes you use one gun basically for the entire game. Just because it costs so much to fully upgrade one gun, right? And I think that's cool, but it's also just like, I miss when it's like, if I just want to see how powerful one gun was, I could just put it in the pack punch and it would be done, you know? That's why I think any game with multiple pack punch usually is not as great, unless it's like BO3 where it's like 2 times the pack, you get the greatest thing ever. So It's really a double-edged sword, though.
It also allowed the player to spawn in with very overpowered field upgrades, essentially acting as a reinvented version of BO4 specialists.
Yeah.
And also, any weapon they wanted. Literally any loadout
That
weapon,
is also true.
anything.
Yeah.
SMGs, shotguns, ARs, or even LMGs.
Yep.
All decked out with whatever attachments.
And
the
that's
player
what
wanted
made
to
the
get.
that's what made the meta so interesting as well, is just because, like, literally it didn't depend on anything like that. It was all just basically, yeah, and he's showing here the menu upgrades as well. Like, there's no real meta, I find. That's the problem.
Attachments the player wanted.
So
This set out a meta far more than any previous game, and for me, at least, it seemed to almost invalidate like 90% of the weapons available in
I
maps.
agree.
Modern Zombies seems to have this fascination with granting the player powerful key items and upgrades that should have been, or in some cases even once were, unlocked as part of the gameplay.
That's so true.
Just by default for spawning into the map.
Yep.
Gobblegums, weapon kits, specialist weapons, perk loadouts, custom classes.
I mean, I
upgrades,
agree,
and
man.
Perk upgrades. The latter of which actually is something that really frustrates me, because for years I'd wanted to see Modern Warfare 2's pro perk system be added to Zombies.
And they
where
finally did
buying
it, but in
perk
a
would
not
also
great
give you, like, a
way.
little mini challenge
You
to
don't
complete
unlock
that
it
fit with
in-game,
that perk
which
scheme,
sucks.
Which, upon completion,
And there's never, like, dude, the way Cold War should have been is you should have, like, you want stamina up tier 5? Run 500 miles. Show me why you deserve stamina up tier 5. You know, it's just, oh, here's some crystals. Buy it, you know? It was cool, and I love the upgrade process of Cold War, but, like, dude, it also went away so fast because that was just it. That was the progression of it.
would upgrade it. So, for example, I don't know, Speed Cola Pro required you to reload a weapon 100 times, or just something as simple as that integrated very seamlessly
Exactly.
into gameplay.
Exactly.
But in Cold War, that's not the case. You upgrade your perks in the menu, and all the upgrades are permanent and can never go away. With this feature, you created what was potentially a really fun gameplay loop that would have innovated a feature that, at that point, had been present in Zombies for 12 years with almost no innovation whatsoever, but it was done in the most boring way possible, and
I
all that potential was
know.
squandered.
I
Ultimately,
know.
I think as soon as you start allowing for your actions in the pre-game lobby to affect your power in-game and provide options for inter-game gameplay affecting progression, you immediately start to detract from the scavenging for survival gameplay that once acted as the core of Zombies.
Yeah.
When the player is handed more and more free power, and the hurdles they have to pass are made weaker and more inferior by comparison, the end result is a journey that, while, yes, maybe more...
That's why, like, I do like some of the systems, like, because it is such a pain to play Zombies all the time without having some skips, just in little areas like gun upgrades and all that, just because there's so many different reasons why people play Zombies. But I do agree, I think you should be able to play Zombies up until, like, first Prestige or something, and then you unlock all the stuff. Like, play the right way that it was intended to play, and then you get the OP stuff. Just like it is in IW Zombies. IW Zombies does that great with Director's Cut. It's like, we're not going to give you the OP mode until you do every single Easter egg. That is the most important part, in my opinion.
A larger audience of players lacks that kind of underdog-born gratification that was once the foundation of the mode. Many games nowadays fall for this trap, believing that giving the player as many powerful tools as possible right out of the gate to immediately provide that power fantasy will hook them. And maybe in an era where most people...
Sometimes it does, and sometimes it really doesn't. It can be too confusing.
But ultimately,
yeah, like BO4.
This leads to a far more shallow experience that lacks replayability and long-term interest, because so many of the challenges the player has to overcome are shortcut by external features. Zombies was a far deeper, more engaging experience for me when the power fantasy was achieved via natural in-game progression, and when achieving all elements of it was a struggle, not when it was handed to the player from the get-go.
I agree.
So many of the little things as well that once
and it's definitely deteriorated a lot of what Zombies is today.
As well, in favor of ensuring the player was as powerful as possible at all times. Now, these things may seem really small and insignificant, but things like being able to shoot while drinking a perk, being able to buy...
I mean, those are cool additions, you know?
The lack of any pack-a-punch animation.
But I do
These
agree.
were all
It
things
takes
that were
away
really
personality
trade-offs for
and
getting a powerful
mystery
upgrade
as
that
well.
helped to balance them out a little bit and make sure even as powerful.
That's why I don't feel like they found the
there
true
always felt
solution
like
to
there
it
was
yet.
a degree of tension and weakness there. Like I said, these are all very small features, but when it comes to crafting an atmosphere, it's the little things that count.
That's pretty freaking sweet!
I mean, sure, you don't get that from the pack punch in 2022. That's so
Something
true.
else that I think Zombies lacks nowadays as well is defensive gameplay. At the end of the day, it's still a zombie horde survival mode, and it used to be very in keeping with the...
I think going back to hoarding is so much better than defensive. Because, like, dude, BO4 is just a camping game after all, and, like, camping in BO4 for high rounds is boring. It's not interesting to watch. It is not fun. I do agree, BO3 did it probably the best with hoarding, with different strategies. Camping is just not the way to go. Which also says, do not bring back super sprinters. If you bring back super sprinters or anything that's faster than you in zombies, then you can't hoard. That ruins the whole gameplay strategy of it. Like, so don't put that shit in the
genre
game. You know?
how its maps were designed to have you play. It was a very traditional kind of hunker down and survive zombies mode. I always loved how games used to play out like...
I mean, it's very true, yeah.
With you and your friends holding out, with backs against the wall, slaughtering...
But is that just an outdated thing, you know?
Before being entirely overrun. It really felt like an interactive, addictive version of Night of the Living Dead.
Very true.
Over time, it lost that defensive element, with the default gameplay becoming more offensive.
I agree.
Trains,
yeah.
Throwing yourself at the horde, etc., etc. Now, this is not a modern zombies problem by any means. It's a problem that I've had with the mode since Black Ops 1, and I felt it largely detrimental to the atmosphere of the mode overall, because rarely now do you feel like you're forced onto the back foot, being overwhelmed. Unlike in World at War, where maps felt like they were designed specifically to be rather claustrophobic.
The old games make you feel like that constantly as well.
Maps started becoming too open. No longer were you frantically searching for a place to hold up, bordering up windows and killing as many zombies as possible before they breach your safe haven. Instead, you were actively inviting the zombies into the map so you could round them up like cattle and gun them down.
Basically,
back against the wall moments that were so prevalent on the Derice catwalk or on the Varuk's butcher balcony are few and far between now. Now, granted, to give credit where it's due, it does seem as though there was...
I mean, Cold War has done quite a lot, to do it, and then Vanguard just screwed it up, bro.
Style of gameplay.
I always forget about Vanguard. I actually always forget about it when I think about zombies.
Out over training, bringing back that classic Derice catwalk vibe, and also the field upgrades, like Ring of Fire, for example, encourage the player to hunker down in a certain area and hold out, instead of running around power sliding in circles.
I mean, that's true.
Defensive gameplay still wasn't anywhere near as prevalent in Cold War as it was in World at War, for example.
I mean, the thing is, though, is like, I like the camping strats in BO4, but I don't like that it's the predominant way to get to high rounds because zombies are just too fast. So, like I said, everything he's brought up in this video is literally a double-edged sword. There's not a specific way that they found to do it correctly, and they need to do that encompasses all the boxes that zombies does. Because that's the way the old games were made, and that's what made them so amazing, because they were articulately made.
By both zombie movies and conspiracy theories, Call of Duty Zombies was like my dream video game experience.
Same.
It had
it's
me
like
hooked
adventure.
For years, and to a degree, it still does have me hooked.
Same.
But over time, my genuine excitement and love for the mode has waned. As I hope I've made it very clear in this video, I find it impossible to pinpoint one game or map or iteration of the mode that has definitively marked its downfall for me. Truth be told, elements of the mode
it's a progression.
2008 have been degrading since as early as Black Ops 1.
Yeah.
Like with many franchises, its downfall wasn't a binary flick of a switch, but rather a gradual loss of sight of what made the mode so special to begin with. And with how its unique properties intertwined with one another to create this perfect storm of an experience that is almost entirely irreplicable without being a one-to-one carbon copy. The gameplay informed the atmosphere.
Yeah, it just goes to show, like, will they ever find the right way again? Who knows?
Easter eggs played into all three at the same time. But over time, the priorities of zombies flipped. It was at its strongest for me when the gameplay was simple and accessible, but with this insanely deep, dark, and inaccessible story hidden beneath the surface. Later titles, I feel, flip this on its head, putting the story front and center.
Yeah, story not first, please. Gameplay, then story, but they're both important, not equally, but they're both important.
What was once classified as an Easter egg just to do something as simple as turning on the power. It was at this point where I think Zombies started to lose sight of its hook. The gameplay captured me because of how repeatable, addictive, and simple it was, and the complex, mysterious story that was hidden naturally within the world had me searching every damn pixel of a map to find clues for the future.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Zombies seems to lack almost
It's just
everything
hope you
which
find
made the
it,
mode
you
so
know?
special to me.
I agree. And there's no real Easter egg hunts. I want somebody to make a
So,
great video
there you
about
have
that.
it. A video that I
Like,
wanted to make
what
for
Easter
over
egg
6
hunts
years
were,
now,
why they were so
sorry if it
special.
ended up being a bit
Somebody's
long
got to
and a
make
bit
that. Somebody
messy.
from the
I had a
OG
lot of
community. I'd
thoughts
love to see that.
I wanted to include
No,
in
it's a
this
great video and
Like I
experience.
said,
Loved it,
this video
dude.
has
It was
been a
great.
long,
Great
long
watch.
time
And I
coming.
think
Regardless,
not a lot of people can understand this video because a lot of people have come in from BO2, BO3, and afterwards, and they just don't get it. It's like they think of us as like boomers or something. I hate that. I saw a comment the other day that was like, this zombie guy is just a boomer, dude. He's just a boomer purist. It's like, no, dude. We literally know what was the mode, like why people got into the mode in the first place, you dummy. You Vanguard lover, dude. Get out of here.
I want to give
Actual
a massive
disgusting
thank you to both Jay Rizzo
disgrace.
and Mr. Ruff Waffles for their help with this video.
Shout out to
They both
Greg,
gave some
dude. Let's
absolutely
go.
Invaluable input. So
Hell
please,
yeah.
somehow, if you haven't
Yeah,
done
check them
already,
all out.
Make sure you check them both out.
Check out Hidden
Links to their
Experience as
channels
well,
are
boys.
both in
It's
the
been an
description.
absolute pleasure. Thank you again so much for watching this video, guys. I know this is a different one, but let me know what I should react to next. Thank you again, and I'll see y'all in that next one.